As you watch this video, I want you to keep one main idea in your head, and that is that the path to hell is paved with good intentions. Okay, and this video is going to be in defense of China's treatment of the Uyghur, apparently that's how you say it, I was saying Uyghur population, but apparently it's pronounced Uyghur population in China. And this is different than their treatment of the Tibetan people, okay? Do not confuse the two, okay? Do not confuse the two, okay? So, Islamic extremism is a huge problem throughout the world, okay? And we're making the same mistake with the Uyghur population of China as we did with the people in, what do you call it, in Afghanistan, the people that eventually attacked us, but we used them against the Soviet Union because we assumed that having a common enemy with these people, we could use them and then they would accept democracy. Well, they didn't, okay? Eventually, they didn't like us meddling in their country. What's odd is the USSR and the United States had far more similar systems of governance and far more similar values and far more similar everything than we did with the Afghanis, okay? That's the truth. In fact, the Islamic extremist population of Afghanistan destroyed the indigenous, well, it's not really indigenous, but it was the only place in the whole world where the system of Buddhism, known as Alexandrian Buddhism, which was a blending of Platonic philosophies from Plato and Socrates, and Buddhism existed in the whole world, and it was eradicated by the people that were supported by the United States so that we could oppose the USSR. It was not destroyed by the USSR. In the USSR, under the USSR, the people of Afghanistan, like the people of the USSR, were given similar rights to the people of the United States, okay? So where else did we make this same mistake? Yugoslavia. If you look at Yugoslavia, I had a friend from Bosnia, and actually what was funny is he actually agreed with me. We supported Bosnia because what it was is the Catholics, and it was the Catholic Church and the Mujahideen and other groups similar to those two were working against the Orthodox Christians in Serbia, okay? And the United States, we had to stick our nose where it didn't belong because of human rights violations, human rights violations, human rights violations. And we took in these Albanian refugees, and look what happened. A number of them have attacked us throughout the years with Islamic radicalism. Okay. Now, most recently, we have the gentleman in Boulder, Colorado. And, you know, what was that about? That was about Islamic extremism because this dude could not assimilate because there was no attempt to force assimilation. And that's what China is doing to the Uyghur population, is they are attempting to force them to assimilate to Chinese society. And people might go, well, what about individual liberties and this and that and that and that? Different countries govern differently. That's the truth, okay? It's similar, we don't need any more of these forever wars, okay? And we don't need, this is not what we need to be fighting with China over, okay? If anything, this should be something we agree with China on. And I can hear people now, well, you oppose the Israeli occupation of the Golan Heights and the Israeli occupation of Palestine. Why do you oppose them, but you don't oppose this, blah, 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 blah. There is a huge difference between the two. Number one, the Palestinians, the Levantan people that live in that area, or the Levantine people that live in that area, are the indigenous people of that region. And my disagreement is not necessarily with the Israeli occupation, although I do think it is inhumane and brutal and all that. My disagreement is with the fact that it really screws up U.S. foreign policy and U.S. domestic policy, and it allows AIPAC and other lobbyists to basically weasel money out of the United States, which negatively affects the United States. My argument would be that our use of the Uyghurs as saying, look at these human rights violations by China, is not very intelligent. What I did think was humorous, though, was when the Chinese woman held up a picture, 100-and-something-year-old picture of a United States slave, and said that slavery was a problem in the United States. The problem, what makes that not funny, is the stupid white liberals that will work on them. That will make them upset. They'll go, oh, well, maybe it is. Maybe it is. We're such bad people in the United States. So that's a possibility there. Okay, that is well, not a possibility, that's a probability. That's happening. Stupid white liberals in this country are getting all hot and bothered because they held up a 100-and-something-year-old picture of a slave that, mind you, the United States government, the Union, fought a war against the Confederacy to liberate the slaves and then outlawed slavery. So let's remember that. The United States, since the time of Abraham Lincoln, has consistently been anti-slavery. So let's keep that in mind, okay? That's the truth. So there is no slavery problem in the United States. There's no forced labor problem in the United States. Unless we consider the exploitation of illegal migrants by the rich in their use in landscaping, nannying, and other things like that. That's where the forced labor issue comes in, is with the rich's exploitation of the predominantly Latin American illegal migrants and the using of them for virtually slave labor. That's where the problem with what I would call economic slavery comes in, and it's a joke. And then you also have the problem, the thing is, and this is where the problem comes in, you start bothering China about their Uyghur violations. What about our border crisis? What about the fact that we have adolescent youths at the border that look like they're wrapped in frickin' fast food wrappers and holding them inches apart in the middle of a pandemic in Texas? Ted Cruz went down there and was denied access to view it and film it. And the woman that got in his face, I mean, I understand why. I mean, I wouldn't want people to see that either. But technically speaking, those people have no rights. They have no privacy rights. They're not U.S. citizens. My point is that what people need to keep in mind is we have made this mistake in the past. We've made this mistake with the Afghanis. We made this mistake with the Yugoslavian Muslims. We made this mistake with, well, honestly, with a lot of populations. We've made this mistake in Syria. We've made this mistake in a lot of places. And this goes back far. It goes back. The United States has a very bad problem picking the wrong side of wars. Like, for example, in World War II, we picked the side of the USSR. Because Great Britain, who we share a common language with, but that's about it, picked the side of the Soviet Union, okay? But if it wasn't for the United States funding the USSR, who became our greatest enemy, it wouldn't even exist. What would have been a more tactically intelligent choice to make would be to not have involved ourselves and let the Soviets and the Germans destroy each other and us not get affected by it at all. That would have been the most tactically intelligent decision to make from a tactical point of view, to rise up as the new superpower as Europe destroyed itself. That would have made the most sense instead of involving ourselves in the mess. Okay? Now, and then we created the USSR. Through our funding and our funneling of money and our support, we created the USSR instead of allowing the Germans to destroy the USSR and the USSR to destroy Germany. That's what the outcome would have been if we didn't involve ourselves. Okay? Germany did come out on top before we involved ourselves, but Germany would have been much easier to negotiate with and much easier to sustain relationships with than the USSR was. Okay? Now, let's get into the mistake. The United States also involved itself with the creation of Castroist Cuba by supporting Castro. Okay, that was a mistake. The United States also aided Mao Zedong and created the current superpower that is the thorn in the side of this country. My point is that the United States needs to focus its attention, reallocate its resources back to this country and away from meddling in foreign affairs that do not involve us just because of human rights violations. And that's where I think Tulsi Gabbard is number one, because Tulsi Gabbard understands that we can't be involving ourselves in this nonsense, whether or not, for example, whether or not Bashar al-Assad is a violator of human rights, which I doubt, honestly. I mean, it's a nasty situation in Syria, and that sometimes nasty things happen. But whether or not Bashar al-Assad is a brutal dictator or not, that does not mean that the United States should be involving itself in Syria any more than it meant we should have been involving ourselves in Iraq, nor does it mean that we should be involving ourselves in Chinese affairs with the Uyghur population, and we certainly should not be taking in Uyghur refugees. I'm waiting for that one. I'm waiting for that. When we start bringing, we have a border crisis with a gajillion illegal migrants that we don't know what to do with, okay, and then we're gonna take in more refugees. Yeah, that's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting to hear that one. But anyway, that's my rambling rant on this. There are links in the description. Follow the links if you want to see that what I'm saying is actually true. And that's all for this video.